The number one thing you can do to ensure a miserable camping experience is to get a poor night's sleep. Being cold, overtired, and exhausted from a long day of hiking makes the experience so much less enjoyable. The best way to ensure a good night's sleep while camping is to keep yourself warm. There are two main parts to staying warm while sleeping: the insulation above you and the insulation below you. Both are equally important. You could have the best sleeping bag in the world, but if you sleep directly on the ground and crush all of that insulation, you'll still wake up cold. There are many different kinds of sleeping mats that will insulate you from the ground. You can simply use a cheap $5 yoga mat or opt for a $300 inflatable ultralight insulated sleeping pad. I usually go for something closer to the yoga mat, but I do go for something inflatable so that it packs down a lot smaller. A sleeping mat is especially important when you're sleeping in a hammock. All the pressure on your back makes any insulation back there completely useless. The sleeping mat will also provide you with a bit of support so that you don't end up folded in like a taco by the end of the night. Now, sleeping bags range from $30 to $800, all with varying effectiveness. The most expensive ones are extremely thick and insulated with down feathers. These ones will obviously keep you the warmest, but they'll also break the bank. The synthetic bags will do the job for most situations, and they also pack down quite small. Quilt sleeping bags are good for keeping you warm, but the main issue is that they're big and heavy and not great for a camping trip. My favorite sleeping bag is a hybrid bag, which uses down and synthetic insulation. These hybrid bags will keep you quite warm and are more in the $100 to $200 range. I also use the mummy style bag because on really cold nights, you can bundle right up so that you stay as warm as possible. It's also important to unpack your sleeping bag right when you get to camp. That way you give the insulation time to loft up and do its job properly. One of the best ways to stay warm if you don't want to break the bank on a sleeping bag is to put on layers. Bundling up with clothing is a great way to stay warm. One of my favorite things to wear is my rain gear. Most people don't think of this, but I first tried this out on one very cold and desperate night and found it to work really well. Because your rain gear doesn't breathe, it actually reflects a lot of your body heat back towards your body. By far the best clothing for staying warm is merino wool. This fabric is lightweight, breathable, and will insulate you even when it's soaking wet. The only downside is the price. But when you wake up freezing in the middle of the night, you aren't going to be thinking, "I'm so glad I saved all that money." Now, if you don't have a tent or shelter, one of the best ways to stay warm is by sleeping next to a fire. This isn't the greatest sleep because you constantly have to keep waking up to stoke the fire. The best way to do it is to get a nice bed of coals going and keep them close to you with the fire burning a little bit farther back. This will help prevent breathing in smoke all night and is also a little bit safer because you're less likely to catch on fire. Always be careful sleeping next to a fire, especially if you're wearing synthetic material or sleeping in a synthetic sleeping bag. Not only will a spark ruin your gear, but a hot, melted polyester mess on your skin is a recipe for disaster. Now, those are all the basics, but here are a few extra tips and tricks I've learned to staying warm while camping. First is eat something hot before bed. A hot chocolate, tea, or soup will help warm you up before bed. I've woken up so cold before that I've boiled a pot of water and just drank hot water to warm me up. Not only that, but if you eat before bed, the process of digestion will help keep your body warm. Do not neglect your head. Putting on a toque or a bandana or anything to insulate your head will help you stay warm while sleeping. Always put on more than necessary. I always bundle up more than I think I need before bed. The temperature will always drop in the middle of the night, and so will your body temperature. Even if you're warm while you're going to sleep, you will definitely cool down after laying still for hours. Not only that, but it's a lot easier to take off layers in the middle of the night than to search through your tent in the dark for more clothing. And finally, if all else fails, exercise. You won't freeze to death without first waking up. One of my most miserable nights of camping started with me going to sleep at sunset. Later I woke up and thought it was 5 a.m. It was cold, so I thought I'd start boiling some water and get ready to start my day. Unfortunately, when I checked the time, it was 11 p.m. I tried to sleep for another hour but couldn't. I ended up doing squats and push-ups, back to back, right until the point where I was about to break a sweat. At this point, I laid down and fell asleep right away, but only for about 20 minutes. So I just continued this pattern all night until the sun finally started coming up. So take it from someone who's learned the hard way, multiple times, that staying warm while camping is important, especially if you want to enjoy the experience. I hope you learned something new, and I hope this video helps you on your next camping trip. Let me know your most miserable night of camping in the comments below, and tune in next time for another adventure.